Morning, and welcome to SPC Dr. Transportation, or Leanne Cheney. I'm just SPC. I'll be facilitating today's meeting. We're excited about today's agenda. We have a presentation related to implementation of an action item from our updated active transportation plan that was just updated or adopted in June. And one of the things Carrie will be talking about from Frank Taylor is a study that we're working on. And then we'll hear from Squirrel Hill Urban Coalition about a very specific project. And whether you're attending in person or virtually, we appreciate your input. And if you're online and your name's not appearing, if you could just put that in the chat, name when from. And then in the room, we'll start with introductions, and we'll go ahead and start with you, Carrie.
Carrie Machuga from McCormick Taylor.
Greg Boris from Mount Lebanon, Move Lebo.
Becky Butler, Washington County Planning.
Kyle Reese, Washington County Planning. Evan Shaws, SPC.
Good morning, everyone. Anthony Hickton, SP State.
Nancy Hirsch, SPC.
Chris Charles, SPC.
Rich Fitzgerald, Rachel Carson Trout.
Rich Fitzgerald, SPC.
Overall, Squirrel Hill, Greater Pittsburgh Trail, Publisher Regional Guidebooks, Trail Volunteer Fund. Mary Shaw, much of the same Squirrel Hill Urban Coalition Bike Pit Committee, and also CMEs.
And I'm Marshall Hirschberg, co-chair of the Squirrel Hill Urban Coalition's Bike Ped Committee.
Rich Fader, co-chair, Bike Peds Committee, Squirrel Hill.
And Minnesota.
Julie Farring, SPC.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for the introductions. We'll go ahead and get started with the first presentation on the agenda, which is the Regional Trail Development Capacity Needs Assessment, which I'll turn it over to Carrie.
All right. As Leanne said, McCormick Taylor is assisting SPC on this assessment. It is a bit of a mouthful. Essentially, what we're looking to do is to identify challenges and capacity issues, needs that trail development organizations are facing in the region, and then kind of looking at what we can do to help meet those needs or address those capacity issues.
Get there.
So that's kind of our overall goal. We're looking to wrap this up by the end of the year. So we are kind of right in the middle of the identifying needs part of this assessment. So we can go on to the next slide. So we started with identifying trail groups across the region. We have come up with a very long list, I think over 100 groups, municipalities, all the counties, all those kinds of groups. And we are kind of developing a master database of all these groups and their contact information, working on updating the existing GIS mapping that SPC has to identify any trail segments that are planned in development, already exist. And then we're also looking to collect studies and related work just to sort of have them, again, sort of in a database that we can reference as we go along, and just to kind of understand what's going on, who's doing what in the region related to trail development. And we had our first stakeholder advisory group last week before. That was the 21st. Right here.
Yeah.
And got some really great feedback. Mary and Roy were there. We had a lot of good conversation. So we're that's one of the first parts of our sort of input collecting that we're going to be doing. You can go on to the next one. These are some of the trails or studies about trails, just as examples of the types of reports and studies that we're looking for. All kinds of things from statewide plans to Friends of the Riverfront, ACTA, DILMI, all those sorts of organizations that we know are doing trail work. And this is, again, just an example of the long list of things that we're looking at. Again, just to get an idea of what's going on, what other plans exist, and who's doing what. We will also be doing some focus groups, looking at some large regional or national trail organizations, some of which are, managing several trails throughout a region. One that kind of popped out to folks at our stakeholder meeting was the Carolina Thread Trail. That's one that we're kind of thinking of could be a model for the Southwest PA, even though it's not really near here or involved in Pennsylvania at all. But we think that it could just be a good model, best practice that we can take a look at. We'll meet with state agencies that are involved in active transportation and trail development, county staff, looking at planners, parks and rec staff, as well as the county conservation districts, and then local trail organizations, the folks who are actually on the ground building those segments that, kind of all contribute to our regional network. And I think the most important thing for today is our regional survey, officially launching right now here with this meeting. We are looking to collect responses by the end of the month, and we'll sort of do this in tandem with our stakeholder focus groups and pull all of that input together to sort of help us come up with these specific needs, capacity issues. We can then sort of, in the next part of the assessment, look at ways that we can help address those needs and concerns. So we have a QR code here. We'll also send around the actual link after the forum as well. So please, everyone here, we would appreciate your input because you're all in some way involved in active transportation at the very least, if not, specific trail development. So we would appreciate your input. And then if you also know others who you may have mixed in our, big list, or, just to encourage folks that to also weigh in and help us understand as much as we can about trail development in the region. That takes us almost to the end. So this is sort of our next steps through the end of the year, holding those focus groups and then identifying what those capacity needs are, looking at possible governance structure or what that sort of regional support system network may look like. Then we'll come back and meet with our advisory group. We're thinking kind of like November timeframe to get their sort of thoughts and input on those needs and regional structure options that we come up with, and then pull that all together for a final report at the end of the year. So kind of breeze through that. Leanne, I don't know if there's anything else.
No, I thought in submission, I don't know if you did say this and I was not paying attention, but when we developed the survey, I would just like to emphasize that we had significant input from the stakeholder advisory group, and we always appreciate that input and anticipation.
Yeah.
So we think we got it to a good place, and like Carrie said, we'll launch it today.
Yeah, I do have a question. And has to do with the other Carrie, the Carrie Furnace that was mentioned. A lot of trails, you can listen any of them. You mentioned that particular one, but I wanted to relate it to the Turtle Creek connector.
Mhm.
Isn't that becoming one of the same, or do I not understand the connections of the sea?
I think they're becoming connected. I don't know, Mary or Roy, if you may have.
Yeah, there was a study a few years ago, and I think Friends now has the baton.
Yes, yeah.
There was recently a public meeting on the Turtle Creek connector. So there's a project to get through Hazelwood and under the Glenwood Bridge, which has always been a sticking point, which takes you to the existing Duck Hollow Trail. Carrie Furnace project, I think, is to get from the end of the Duck Hollow Trail at Duck Hollow over to Carrie Furnace. And then you've got the Braddock Wreck and Swissvale stuff and onto Turtle Creek. And you were part of that original study, weren't you?
Yeah, there was a original study about 4 or 5 years ago where there's 5 boroughs that Braddock Borough was primarily the principal organizer of it. Swissvale, Bragg, Turtle Creek, and so forth. And I believe there are existing plans in the development of how they're going to actually do a proposed route to Turtle Creek. Obviously, the big question is money. The involved trail.
Right.
Friends hosted the last one.
Friends is please, key mover on that one. But I'm just want you to see it, sure.
But it is moving.
Yes.
It's not a figment of somebody's imagination. There are lines on maps.
Yes. I think they're all, to the original question, segments that would kind of connect into one network. Is that a fair way to say that? Yeah.
Where they'll all be separate organizations, probably separate organizations maintaining them, but they would be separate, one continuous trail.
You can, yes, right.
So there's the public view and the backroom view. The backroom view is one of the organizations maintaining it.
Who's in charge?
The front room view is, I got a bicycle, I want to go there, what do I do next?
Yep.
Any other?
There's studies that you did include economic studies. Is that on your list also?
A little bit. I think we're really focused on the organizations and their needs, not necessarily the economic impact of trail use, which I think is obviously very important, but just not really in the purview of this.
But if you reflect these studies, you might want to also collect
Yeah.
list so that the economic studies have been made already.
That's an example of a kind of thing that this advisory group could help the trail get started.
Okay.
Because the trails can use the economic impact studies of other trails to say, this is good, look at what we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we plan to take these studies that people do share what we already have, and we can include the economic impact studies as well and create a plan library on the Active Transportation Resource Center. We do have that already for active transportation plans and complete streets that are adopted throughout the region. So we can add that, and they'll continue to live on past this study, live on in storage on our website.
Except for listing studies, your own Second Avenue study had a lot of information about bicycle connections from downtown out to the Glenwood Bridge.
Do you remember when that study was?
Probably 2018 is my guess.
Okay, I was going to say, yeah. I still say before COVID and after COVID. I think it was,
I'm pretty sure it was too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
but yeah, we have a lot of information here. Good point. All right, any other questions on this assessment, regional trail needs assessment?
Just one question. This encompasses the whole area of this commission or just Allegheny County or what?
All 10 counties.
All 10 counties. Thank you.
And we're also looking at connections beyond the beach into Ohio, West Virginia, wherever, Jefferson County.
Steubenville, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right.
All right. I think there's just one more slide that has my contact information, Leanne's, which everybody will have anyway.
Okay, great.
If you have anything to share later, please feel free to get in touch.
All right. Thanks so much for that overview, Carrie. And I'll work on this. Okay, so we'll get ready and get your presentation put up. We'll move on to Bike Ped Transit and PennDOT District 11 design, Squirrel Home Interchange. We'll hear from Rich Fader and Marshall Hirschberg. And if you would like to sit up there, Rich, you can. You actually to get it moved to that.
But Marcia will start off.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. All right. Get there in a minute, Marshall. Okay. All right, Marshall.
Good morning, everyone. As noted, I'm Marshall Hirschberg. I'm chairman of the Squirrel Hill Urban Coalition's Bicycle Pedestrian Committee. I'm here with Rich Fader, co-chair of the committee as well. I'm happy we're in company of Roy Weil and Mary Shaw, who are known to everyone as paragons of active transportation throughout southwestern Pennsylvania and long-term members, key members of our committee. So we blame them, but they're everybody, so we appreciate them. And we thank you for inviting us here today. PennDOT's I-376 Squirrel Hill Interchange Improvement Project is a redesign of the interchange that successfully addresses traffic safety and flow, including for active transportation users. And our purpose here today is to provide perspective on the bike pedestrian transit that complements and indeed fits directly into the plan redesign as developed by PennDOT's District 11. First, I'll give some background to how we got here. Pittsburgh City Council District 5, currently represented by Barbara Warwick and formerly by Corey O'Connor, have facilitated and helped us in all kinds of active activities that we've done. When he was on council, Corey O'Connor convinced the owners of the True Leave Medical Dispensary to reserve right-of-way from the corner of Beechwood Boulevard and Monitor Street up to Forward Avenue, in the heart, adjacent to the heart of Squirrel Hill. The council district office worked with NOMI to implement that trail, and it is now in operation. The district office also helped us and our colleagues in the Greenfield Community Association to continue working to advance active transportation in our area. And happily, a little more than a year ago, Barbara Warwick, Councilmember Warwick, received an invitation from District 11 to identify possible bicycle pedestrian trails within the interchange study area that might be adapted and incorporated into their redesign. And as you can imagine, we were happy to have that invitation and we were ready to respond. And that's what we will be talking about today. And Rich will describe what we are specifically working on. So, Rich.
Yeah, what I wanted to do first of all, thank you very much for having us. What I wanted to do was follow up what Carrie was talking about in terms of their study, the regional study, and all the work that's been done by SPC in particular, working with other organizations, but just seeing the map of regional trails. And I just want to show you that where this project fits in within bigger whole. So this actually, there's a piece of that trail that's already been implemented. And with the help of the city. So that's, and the I-376 project is, of course, along I-376, which is here. Hope it's okay if I go to the screen and do it. It's just, it seems more convenient to me. And so the project limits are from Forward Avenue to the Run. And that's a sub-neighborhood within the neighborhood of Greenfield. And it's intended to be built right next to the highway, was always the intention. So, which is why when PennDOT came to us and said to the city and said, you know, what projects do you have? Well, we have a project which you guys gone. There it is, Hispanic. Yeah, there. So let me just now zoom out, since I've shown you the existing piece that's in operation. Was zoomed out once, hopefully. Okay, so see the cursor. Yeah. So the trail is looking to extend. First of all, the Run is exactly where the Eliza Furnace Trail ends in the neighborhood of the Run. Also at interfacing with Hazelwood, which is right next door as well. So, and it ends at the borderline between those two neighborhoods. So this would basically connect with the Eliza Furnace Trail through use of some local streets in the road section connecting to the Eliza Furnace Trail. And there are projects in the books, maybe even the Second Avenue study of SPC addressed some of the potential connections, because that was in the study area of Second Avenue, 2018 or whatever that study was done. And then we're also, as you can see on the map, the regional network has basically looked at southern extensions, and the gap is right here. And there are sidewalks that we use today to ride our bikes on the Homestead Grays Bridge. So I just wanted to start with this, diverting from our slide presentation, because the opportunity came when we were talking about this. It really fits in very well together. Other than this project not only is serving the local area, the city of Pittsburgh, but also the region as well. I guess. So,
In our years of working on this, we came up with this idea and called it Run Forward. And in the redesign that District 11 has done, they've called it Saley Street by Connection because it basically follows right of way that has been on Saley Street.
Okay, I want to also take a step back and look at the highway project itself and why it's needed. Anyone who uses the Squirrel interchange knows that it's a from the design, an old design interchange, and so it's amazing. But you actually see it better than I can on my computer. There's this westbound off ramp. There's a sharp left turn followed by another sharp left turn followed by a high-speed merge, followed by a semi-controlled intersection, that kind of thing. And of course, that's too high. Those are the speeds that are too high, interfacing with the design that's too low, if you will. We have the opposite problem at the outbound on-ramp, where it comes to a stop condition at the bottom. So obviously, the highway needs a lot of work, and kudos to PennDOT for doing that work. And talking about connections, Hazelwood, Greenfield, and Squirrel Hill got together and coordinated all of our projects. We have a list of 18 projects that came out of those meetings that relate to each other in some way. You're lucky I won't be showing those 18 projects, but they had certain patterns to them in terms of Hazelwood connections, east-west connections, which actually is coincident almost exactly with what we're calling the Run Forward project, and PennDOT, when they adopted that project in the design, as Marshall mentioned, of the new Squirrel interchange, they changed the name to the Salete Street Bike Connection. Hey, that's a good name too. So that's that project there, and these corridors come together at nodes, and node number 2 is Forward Avenue, and that's also where the existing trail piece is located. These are those southern connections to the Great Allegheny Passage that I mentioned earlier, as well as a number of things have been studied through Hazelwood, connecting it more directly to the Eliza Furnace Trail and extending along the route of the Turtle Creek Connector. There's another set of extensions that this would all work together to facilitate each other and complement each other, us as users of these projects. Of course, we know the Great Allegheny Passage, where that goes on the other side of the river. Okay, so this was our graphic, and we called it the Run Forward at via I-376. You can see it in blue on the north side of the Squirrel Hill interchange, and it is only 9/10 of a mile of new construction, so it really is not a long piece. But it's interfacing with reconstruction of the interchange, so it would be a fairly complicated thing to build, but that will be PennDOT's job, hopefully, to design that. I will also point out to you, without going up to there, but on the right, you see some dash lines. It needs to be connected to the local streets. And so we put some dash lines, and we have some ideas of how to do the interface from the regional trail, if you will, of the Run Forward path to the local streets. When I'm showing you PennDOT's drawings, you'll see their version, which actually is a great improvement of what we had in mind. I'll get to that in a few minutes. And then, so you can see on the left where the blue line ends, it's the local streets of the Run, which connect to the Eliza Furnace Trail. You see in green, and the base map is Google Bike Layer on Google Maps. You can see the green showing the existing base which the city council's office was instrumental in first reserving the right of way when the marijuana dispensary was developed. The council met O'Connor got that reserved, and then he had a year or so later, Domi come out and put this path together. But in property of the dispensary, but also the city owns some property there. So, one thing I want to mention is we have this north-south piece you see over here, and that's would be a convenient connection through. This is a PennDOT property here to the Cohasset Street Trail that's in Shenley Park. Although PennDOT has adopted this project in their plans, they call it, there's two caveats. One is that it's shown as a potential project. In other words, and I need to explain the agency interactions, the district office has included it in the design of the interchange, and they want it to happen. But because it's in the right of way of a highway, it needs to be approved by the central office and by Federal Highway Administration. Right. We will do it. And that makes a lot of sense. And so we're really hoping that, given that a lot of these connects within highway rights of way exist around the United States, there's hopefully no reason why that can't be done. And the second caveat was that PennDOT did not include that connection piece in their plan because part of it is outside their right of way. So at the very least, we're asking them to, can you build a stub end of that in your right of way? And then a later project and connect it to the city, you know. And I don't want to get too much into detail here, but this interface is the run forward trail in blue with the existing piece that was built through the marijuana dispensary shown in orange. And we had our ideas for how to make it work along Forward Avenue. I'll show you PennDOT's design in a few minutes. And I also wanted to mention that we've had worked over the years to try to come up with good routes to connect the existing piece of the run forward, down to the Homestead Grace Bridge, and then of course using the sidewalks on the bridge. So this is the map on top that PennDOT presented to the City Council office and then turned it over to Greenfield Community Association and Squirrel Hill Urban Coalition because they knew that we were working on projects in the area. And so blue is the study area. And that says, as Marshall said, what do you got there? What projects that we can look at in more detail? Maybe included in our highway project. Well, we have the project that's shown in the bottom half. We said, wait a minute, thank you very much, but this is exactly within the right of way that you're looking at, the study area you're looking at. So we were hopeful, but you never know when these things, how these things will come up. But as it turns out, PennDOT has produced excellent highway design, in my opinion. And they've incorporated as a potential project the east-west line along the northern edge of the highway interchange. Incorporated that as a potential project, as I said. You've done a great job at better than we could do at the eastern end in fixing it with the local street network. I'll skip that because that basically says what I just said. Now I'm going to show you PennDOT's design, and I think you'll be very impressed. This is an overview looking actually from the north instead of the south, which is usually how these things go. And to the Squirrel Hill Tunnel, it is begins here through the Squirrel Hill, or under Squirrel Hill. And you see in blue along Forward Avenue, their version of how you're going to face the east-west, this Slade Street Bike Connector, which is here. But we'll get better views in it in a few minutes. And they have their ways of interfacing with the street network. And I'll show you those, which are really excellent as well. So let me get to those more detailed renderings. Okay, this again is an overview before I get to too much detail. But a couple of things I want to show you about this or point out about this is that you see some of the highway ramps. They're much more gradual. So than the ramps that are there today, without taking too much right of way, which is a neat trick in areas such as this. So that's one thing I wanted to point out, is that the ramps look good. Just looking at the renderings, the drawings. And the second thing I want to point out to you is that you see a lot of bus stops are shown on the plans, which is great. Many highway plans may not interface that well with transit. This one does. And don't get scared. There's not that many bus stops, but it shows where they're removing the bus stop and moving it to somewhere else. Okay. And I guess the final point I'll make without this is there's a bus stop here, and you see the care that they put in and make sure that there was proper pedestrian access to that bus stop. Again, the level of design, which is really great from the standpoint of active transportation, which is what we're all about in this committee.
I think that some new signalized intersections that will make safety better for motorists and bicyclists, all active.
Yeah, thank you, Marshall. That's an excellent point. So you can barely see the hatched area is the existing ramp. And it's the entry from Forward Avenue, which is here, is unsignalized. It's a high speed. So that's one of the issues that Marshall was just addressing now, is how do you calm traffic? How do you interface the Saline Street Bike Connection, which is in their name, with the local street network? How do you calm traffic? How do you improve safety? Well, when we were looking at these local paths to connect with the more regional path, we had trouble figuring out how to get basically in across the street. We did not imagine that they would put a traffic signal in there because we envisioned it as a high-speed entry to the highway at that location with no sidewalks on that side of the street. There are existing sidewalks on this side of the street. So when PennDOT produced this, I was amazed. It's a regular intersection, folks, and the traffic signal. And a part of the neighborhood which is very highway oriented right now. So I think that's great. And if there's any question you can ask it now, or you can wait till you get me comments on just the idea of putting a regular intersection in what is now a highway oriented area of the people. Okay, there's a couple of intersections. See the last intersection. And again, all of the intersections except one are signalized. And the one that's not signalized has a roundabout, which would be something new I'm not sure there's any roundabouts in the city. There are some in Allegheny County, but anyway, I'll get to that in a minute. But the intersection to the right is Forward Avenue at Beechwood Boulevard. And this signalized intersection, it's a merge and a diverge today. You can't access Forward Avenue from this part of the neighborhood, which is Greenfields down here. Today you can't, but this changes that by making a regular intersection with two-way traffic on the intersection. So they did a great job there. In addition, this is amazing because the highway is the interchange area of the highway is moved over to the north. They created some room, and so the designers, PennDOT's designers, put in green space, new green space in Greenfield. But actually, this is the borderline between Squirrel Hill and Greenfield, but new green space in Greenfield associated with this highway project, which is great. In addition, they created a local access street. And I'll show you a cross section of that so you can see exactly how the lanes and uses are laid out. But so that's an introduction to you of some of the community improvements that they put into the project. And on the so you can finally see the roundabout in the upper left there, and I'll show you more of that later. But we'll see. I mean, it's an unsignalized roundabout, of course, and it's got a pedestrian crossing on the south side, on the far side of that roundabout in the drive, and we'll see how that works. But very exciting to me. But I'll show you more about that in a couple of minutes. See, it's called Forward Avenue Bike Connection. They actually gave a name to one of the local lanes that they're creating to interface the Saline Street Bike Connection with the local streets. They gave a name to it. And then the Manager Street roundabout you see there. And then their description is, to the right, is low volume, one-way residential street. See next slide for illustration. Okay, and the verbiage above that says the realignment of Beechwood Boulevard and the addition of low volume, one-way residential street as illustrated in alternative F, which is this alternative F, which is what I've been showing you, is one of the highway design alternatives where they showed the active transportation improvements. But they say they're also feasible in the other alternatives they studied, but they're not showing them there. Yes, ma'am.
Do I understand correctly that there are no current viable alternatives A, C, and E, that B, D, and F are the complete set?
Correct.
It's not that some can do this and some can't, but the only alternatives left can all do this.
That's our understanding. Yes. But basically, it's in. Basically, that aspect of it is in the project. Unless something really drastic changes, which I guess can't happen with transportation. So, this shows you the green space that I mentioned, and it was here components. To the left is Beechwood Boulevard, and it's two-way traffic, as I indicated. You see the green space there. You then see a cycle track to the right. You see a pedestrian path to the right of that. You see parked cars. And finally, that local street is next, the 10-foot lane, and then the 5-foot existing sidewalk they also show. So that's pretty powerful. Transportation system really does a lot in a confined space. And it's also a community improvement. Okay, I wanted to show you a little bit more about the roundabout. To the left is what is there today. There's a lot of pavement, and there's no signal, and high speeds, of course. And the roundabout is, you can see it blow up with that in the lower right.
Can you help us orient ourselves on that top left? So
Yep, thank you. Good question. Okay, excuse me. This is Monitor Street.
Okay.
This is Beechwood Boulevard towards the water.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And this is Google Maps bike layer has this road as a bicycle route. Yeah. FYI. Yes. Just a couple more. And the lower part of this drawing is what the Saline Street Bike Connection, formerly known as the Run Forward Project, would look like. And basically, it's the Eliza Furnace Trail, with the trail being right next to the highway right away, separated by a Jersey barrier and a fence on top of that. It's essentially what you see there. But this is between Squirrel Mill and Greenfield from the Sling Street by connection. Unfortunately, it has potential. We're really hoping that it will be accepted by central office and FHWA. And finally, just some words here. These are our requested recommendation to PennDOT that the Squirrel Hill Urban Coalition Board, but this stuff together in different wording, but pass that on to PennDOT as part of the public comment period. And that is that we're asking PennDOT Central Office and HWA to accept District 11's design, incorporating the Sling Street bike connection into final design. PennDOT should include in final design a stub-in portion of a short trail from the bike connection to existing Pagasa Trail. I showed that earlier. If anybody has any questions later on during the Q&A, which is very soon, they can post them at that time, and we'll go back to that drawing if you want to see more clarity on that. And finally, the final design should include all complete street elements from the preliminary design. PennDOT has said that they would do that. Something I've shown you before, but Q&A, any questions, comments, input? Brett?
Is this project in the 5-year STIP? And if so, where is it at in the STIP?
I guess the SPC, but you can be sure that the interchange project, I mean, that's really the subject here is the interchange project and the active transportation within that. Yes, that would be in all of the SPC plans and programs.
So in the 5-year STIP, where is it at? It's in year 4.
No, 4 years.
4 year.
4 year. Okay. Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's in there. Unless
Things change. Right?
that's not what you can oversee. You can't look at a step if it's not in it. It's like, I'm giving you a pro forma answer. I assume it's, and sure. Okay, thank you. Sure.
But you know if there have been any connections made from Sylvan Avenue to Saline Street? I know that was one of the things that we had talked about in the 5 Second Avenue study.
Second Avenue study.
Yeah.
Mary is the best source on that.
I have not heard anything recently about Saline connecting at the Greenfield end. The Hazelwood traffic calming had read some of the traffic calming at the Hazelwood end where the streets are. And that's kind of a setup for moving on to the, I guess it's a former road that is the next track.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I haven't seen anything about that.
Okay.
Other than the Hazelwood traffic calming, and theory that is about Hazelwood traffic calming, so there is attention being paid in that area.
Good. Okay. I know that was brought up as, like the goat path trail that people were using on that street that, was the safer route. But, I had.
It's also substantially higher up.
Yeah.
And it has a potential connection at the Fraser Bridge, which we all call the Swinburne Street Bridge. And that bridge is slated for either replacement or major reconstruction when it has its place in line after Anderson, everything's that area.
Yeah.
And there's a potential connection from the Fraser Swinburne Bridge across what used to be Swinburne Street into the parking lot at the end of the Eliza Furnace Trail.
Okay.
It would make a nice connection for that bridge. So there's a lot of potential there.
Yep. I just wondered if there were any works on that other trail or if that was still just, a mention and hopes.
It put a fence up. That northwestern side of Sylvan.
Okay.
Is that where it comes out on the street near Freight Beach?
Yeah.
I haven't been there recently. Suddenly they closed it.
Yeah.
I think there had been some landslides. That might be a safety issue.
Okay.
but it's a shame.
A follow-up question. Wouldn't the Sylvan Trail be either be the same elevation or closer to the same elevation as the end of the Eliza Furnace Trail? They're both on hillside and stuff. So
There's a bumpy hill to connect to Greenfield. The Sylvan Trail is on the map about 2 blocks away from Irvine Street, but it's a very substantial elevation.
Yeah.
yeah, but also against after the Eliza.
The Orange Furnace Trail is 1 story higher than Rapids and Second Avenue. So I think the end of the Saline Street Trail, where it comes out on, sorry, not Saline, Sylvan, where it comes out on that little road whose name I forget that comes down to Greenfield. That road is pretty steep, and so it's you have to take a lot of elevation before it gets to what we call the Swinburne Bridge. But that itself is just slightly higher than the Eliza Furnace Trail.
Yep.
And I felt my elevations about right here.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's a weird section of, Western Pennsylvania with everything being lower and I mean, I guess it is what Western Pennsylvania is, right? It's hills and valleys. So everything's in the valley. All the trails come across the hills. Yeah, I know that section of Irvine Street that we looked at down there. It's just, same thing where it's a lot of high speed people coming underneath the rail trestle to make a right on the Irvine. And, there's not a lot of people slowing down. And obviously the intersection confusing with 5 different directions to go through as well. So
Yeah, and the big issue from a bicycling standpoint is what to do about getting under the active railroad at Irvine Second.
yeah, I know we tried to discuss some of the things with them during that study as well. And like every other study where you reach out to the railroads, you don't hear much back.
The Second Avenue study of SPC was a very good study.
Yeah, and it was thoroughly informed about alternative transportation as well. So there's
Yes.
good material.
Yes.
Great. Any other questions for Rich or Marsh? All right, hearing none, thank you both for
You're welcome.
presenting. That was very informative and we appreciate that. We'll move into the next section on the agenda, which is the roundtable updates. And I put on the agenda for today, an updated agenda, just 3 events I'd like to highlight, and then we'll go around the room and ask folks and online, ask folks to share about what they're working on, any updates that they have to share. But anyways, the PA Greenways and Charles Summit will be held in Harrisburg on September 21 to 23rd. Like Pittsburgh and the city of Pittsburgh are sponsoring the first Vision Zero Summit in Pittsburgh. They'll be on Friday, October 17th. And PDH, professional development hours, will be supplied for the day from the local chapter of ASHE. So your continuing education credits. And registration is still open for that event. And it's also not too late to become a sponsor. So anyone that might want to do that could reach out to Bike Pittsburgh on the sponsorship. And then lastly, the Trail Nation Summit will be held by the Roads to Trails Conservancy, and that will be in Cleveland. And that is October 27th to the 29th. And Chris Jarvis and I plan to be there presenting at one of the sessions. That should be a really good event. So just highlight those 3 events. And then we'll start with you, Greg, and go around the room, and then we'll go online for roundtable updates.
Hey, good morning. Greg Boris from Move Lebo in Mount Lebanon. And we do a lot of little things. So school started, and before school started, we're a walking school district, no school buses. So we had people from our group go out and pick up trash along the ways that kids would be walking to school, clearing the sidewalks. Earlier this year, a law went into effect that said if I'm holding this while I'm driving, I'm in trouble. So we have partnered with the Mount Lebanon Police Department to set up an event next month where we will be inviting people to come in with their car and their phone so we can teach them how to pair their phone with their car's internal system so they can speak hands-free. So we'll be doing that. I think I mentioned last time, and I'll mention it again, we purchased a thing called TellRam, which one can put in their front window of their house and monitor the speeds as people go driving down the street, obviously oftentimes faster than they should be, and be able to use that for data collection. That is available through a partnership with our local library. You can check it out like a book and use that. We also have produced a bunch of little signs, not signs, the art signs, like you're running for office, but this is says 20 is plenty. So you could put that in front of your house to encourage people to slow down. And finally, let's see what day that is. Friday the 19th, given that we're a walking school district, we want to encourage that. So we're going to have a pop-up by one of the elementary schools where we will serve coffee and donuts and stuff to parents who are walking with their kids to school. So those are some of the small things that we've been doing of late. Thank you. Any questions?
I did have a question on that speaking device that you have. What is it called?
TellRam, TellRaam.
AAM. And do you have one of those that's available for loan? And then so
We have one that we purchased and it's available for loan at our local library.
through the library. And any community president can back that.
Correct.
And you mentioned when you that you're a walking school district. I heard of a concept recently called a walking bus.
School bus, yeah.
And no bus, but the parents or adults walk with the children.
Or somebody does.
Somebody, yeah. So it escorts them.
Unfortunately, it is illegal by school district policy to ride for elementary kids to ride their bicycles to school. So there are a group of students that are trying to change that right now, and they recently testified at one of our school board meetings on that.
So if a student did that, they'd be arrested.
No, they would get sanctioned. They would be put in school suspension, or their parents would be called. I was a school principal on a previous life. We do all sorts of things. And that would be one thing that we would do. We would, suspend them in school or call their parents, or it's not a law. It's a school district policy.
Just a good idea. There was the bike bus too for the
Bike bus. Yeah, that's really big.
People for safety and kids going back and forth.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Not
So first, more power to the kids.
Yeah.
I was expected to ride my bike to school when I was in elementary school. But the question is, when people collect this data, is that being centrally organized in the municipality in some way so that it gives planning information for traffic in the future?
We have a mobility committee. We have a city commission, 5 members, and then we have 5 different local or community advisory groups. And one is a mobility committee, which deals with transportation issues. So information flows to them through them so that they can collect it and then share that with our city manager, our city planning department, our city commission. So, for example, we've collected data on a section of roadway, Highway 19, where kids are walking to school, and we've counted the kids that are walking in the area that are not in the school zone. Hundreds of kids, but it's a 35-mile-an-hour zone, and that's been shared. Now, that means that we're dealing also with PennDOT on that, and they've got a study on the corridor, Liberty Washington corridor that we're waiting to hear about. So we'll see where that goes. But it's been shared with our Transport Mobility Committee and with our commission. TellRam, this device, we just got it a few months ago. So it's not getting a lot of attention yet. People are starting to use it, but we'll see.
That's your 35-mile zone, turns out 85% no traffic around 48.
I sit out there with a cab driver sometimes, and I pointed at the cars and see what they do. Other questions? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Greg.
I mean, update.
Why not?
Hi, good morning. This is David White from Bike Share Pittsburgh. We operate the Pogo Bike Share Network. We are co-hosting an event on September 13th, 2 weeks away, at the Homewood YMCA. It's our annual summer roll-up. And this year we'll be joined once again by Mayor Ed Gainey to go on a bike ride and to encourage people to explore the neighborhood of Homewood. We'll have kids' activities, food, and other kind of community day vibes. So please come out September 13th. It's from 1 to 4. Yes, sir.
It's a bike ride, you said?
There's a bike ride as a part of it, but it's more of like a community festival. So some people will go on the ride, some people will stay. Up to you. Thanks.
All right, thanks, David.
I'll keep it.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Anthony Hickton here at SPC. Coming up in the month of September, Transportation Demand Management Week is the week of September 15th through the 19th. And of course, there is a huge active transportation component to TDM activities. We also are participating in an event during that week, the 18th, Thursday, which I believe Pogo is part of as well. Pogo, QRT, and Bike Pittsburgh, as well as us at Nova Place over in the north side, a happy hour event from 5:30 to 7 to talk about the good work that all of the different agencies are doing and to just give us another opportunity to collaborate and be with folks. So please join us if your schedule allows on the 18th. And be advised, be aware, TDM week, please encourage people to do something other than to drive their automobile during that week, at least once or twice, perhaps ride a bike, take public transit, carpool with friends or family or coworkers, just to try and reduce the volume of traffic on the road for the benefit of everyone. Thanks.
Okay, Nancy Hirsch with SPC. We've got the annual AMPO conference coming up in Providence, Rhode Island. And one of our unsung heroes, Neil Cahill, who is the lead on Complete Streets for Pitt, it will be presenting there. So if anybody's going to that conference outside from myself, let's show some support for a local unsung hero. And that's it for me.
Nothing from me. Dave Larson, Rachel Carson Trail Conservancy, and I'm here with John. Well, I won't steal all the thunder, but we're focused on creating some trail sidewalk hybrid networks through the suburban and northern section of Allegheny County and up into public Caribbean. Trying to leverage funding for things like complete streets and safe routes to school to help people walk between trails that are actually pleasant to people.
It would explain more. I mean, you're not talking about building sidewalks, are you?
Yeah, sidewalk networks and trail connection.
You know, the biggest challenge in the United States building sidewalks in suburban Pittsburgh. We like challenges. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. There's a lot of sidewalks in the suburbs, some of which have like 100-foot gap. Right. And it's like, okay, well, we just fill the little gaps and really create a more complete network. Yeah. So there's a lot of gap filling, but there's also opportunities for leveraging existing green space to create trails between communities and in longer distances and to serve the region that way.
Yeah. So, but municipality has to approve what you're doing.
Yes, we have the municipalities. In fact, one of them's on some hearing. Say a word.
Which one?
McCandless.
McCandless is good for that. Thank you.
And John Stephen was Rachel Carson Trails Conservancy. And to that point of working with municipalities, obviously the Highway Trail is the one trail that kind of cuts right through all of these municipalities. And there's been a core group of volunteers that have been working on improving that corridor for about 30 years. And it really takes
daily working with the municipalities to make change because it's not easy. But in the past couple of months, we have met with a nonprofit that owns some property along Chanot Road. Harmony goes right through it. And they agreed to allow the trail to go through their campus to get to Chanot Road. And that's in Marshall Township, which has a very extensive sidewalk plan. And they have been putting in sidewalks whenever they can. And, you know, the dream is to connect more of the schools through the school district so people can once again walk the schools. And, you know, the Harmony Trails flow a lot of schools. So it's, but it is, it's so, you have to keep at it because, you know, Bradford Woods, it's a beautiful community. People walk those roads all the time. And we have got Bradford Woods approval to use Forest Road as the Harmony connector. But Bradford Woods has talked with some of these owners about putting in a sidewalk. And of course, once it gets to the point of the owners actually getting a 3-foot easement or a sidewalk, that's what they'll say no. Even though they love walking their community, it's that, you know, issue of, I guess it just takes someone to have to get comfortable to come to.
If someone chose to put in that 3-foot sidewalk, who would bear the cost? The homeowner, the community, the shared cost?
In the example I was talking about, it was Bradford Woods was prepared to put in the sidewalk along the stretch of road.
Depends whose grant it was on.
Yeah, like that. So, you know, they were ready to do it, but they needed the easements, the approval of the landowners, and they didn't get it, so they didn't do that right. Okay.
Would the landowners be obligated to shovel it in the winter?
Technically, yeah,
That might be affected.
And I think parent when it cracks and breaks. So they do.
yeah. So, you know, the roads are nice to walk on, so well, people know. But yeah, so as you say, we're working a lot with the municipalities, and the idea of walkable communities clearly always scales high when it comes to comprehensive plans. So we're just continuing to encourage people to actually find ways to do that.
Just to put one point out, one of our biggest challenges that we're faced with is getting crosswalks across PennDOT state roads, you know, that might have 35 or 45 mile an hour speed limits. And we're, you know, we actually have examples where the municipalities want these things can't necessarily afford them. So that's where if we can put in larger networks of trails and crosswalks, we could fund them bigger grants.
When you talk about crosswalks and getting PennDOT approval, is this for the striping or more?
Oh, more. Striping, flashing signs, depends on the situation, but it, you know, I don't know, how much is the crosswalk at 910 costing?
Well, I started about
$400,000 for a nice one.
Like with a hop signal or?
Flashing lights, 400 feet down at both ends.
There is the need to put in a new bridge. Right.
So that part of the 400. You're talking a big project.
So yeah, it's a little more complicated like this coming straight across.
More than just 8.
But some of them are just a sign.
So if you wait for that highway project, PennDOT project to be rebuilt, 8 years from now, whenever it gets rebuilt, that's the time to.
Well, in fact, they're rebuilding 910, the interchange at 910 and 79. And I think both municipalities have asked for, and I don't think they're doing it. So I don't know how I don't think they're doing it. So I don't know how you're getting PennDOT to respond, but I'm so eager to learn.
Well, it's the your elected officials need to shape that so they can do it.
And I think that project's already been designed.
Yeah, that's
ready to break ground. So
They're broken ground.
It's too late, baby.
Next.
On the Steel Valley Trail, the trail from Rankin Bridge to Jane had lots of water brook pumps in it. We had recently repaved it, and we used an unusual technique that we basically took a milling machine, chopped up the whole side about 8 inches deep, chopped the trail down about 8 inches deep, mixed it in with mixed some concrete in with it, and relayed that 8 inches stuff in there. It's basically concrete now. And then we put the asphalt layer on top of it. In this process, we hopefully lock in more tree roots because the tree roots can't go through that concrete, or if they do, it'll go under it and the concrete won't budge. We take about a mile of trail, cost around $240,000 to do this approach. Because hopefully we'll find out whether it actually works or not.
It's completed.
It's completed. So the trail is now nice and smooth. Rollerblades on it.
Instead of talking about something current, I'm going to talk about something old because it's come up today 2 or 3 times. And this is the Second Avenue study and some of the bicycle proposals that preceded it. It was 2019, so you were close. And has somebody got a web browser? Could you go please to furnace.org? What?
Furnace to furnace.
Furnace to furnace, furnace with a digit 2. .org. Okay. A bunch of us constitute ourselves as the furnace to furnace group at about the time of the Second Avenue study. So if you will click on reports, please. This has not been updated probably since 2020. But what's here as a resource, Carrie, is first off, there's a link that says is back.
Hang on. We're getting to share that. Going to share that, Andy.
Good.
So we spin it to the switch screen there.
There. Okay. And about the second or third line, it says Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission is sponsored the 10 step change from present to not quite past. And that link takes you to the Second Avenue study. Don't follow the link, but don't follow the link right now. But someone was asking, where is the Second Avenue study? And that is the final report of the Second Avenue study, handily linked here. And then if you scroll down just a little bit more, not quite that far, there are 4 documents there that we're procuring by the bicycling community, proposing various kinds of infrastructure in that corridor. And Sylvan Avenue is in there. And I think there may be a couple of versions of Sylvan Avenue in there because we went back and said, you could do the following things to the Fraser Street Bridge on the roof. And so to your question, there's some suggestions about Sylvan. To your question about where's the Second Avenue study, you have someplace, there's a link to it right there.
That's good.
To your interest, there's a lot of stuff in here about that particular bicycle connection from Rugby downtown or Birmingham Bridge all the way over into Headland and Glenwood Bridge. So this isn't current. The site hasn't been updated recently. Oh, there's one more thing down there. At the very bottom, onward easterly from Duck Hollow, there's a link there to the 2019 version of the Turtle Creek Connector Plan. And that's probably been rendered obsolete by the Morrison framework. So I'm offering this to you as a repository of information that turned out to have been of interest at this meeting, even though it's not current.
I was going to talk about the Santa list, which they list about 30 minor projects around the Pittsburgh area that people could do that somebody could pick up and do. Somebody asked this for this list at one time.
Senator Lawford of SPC, when she was Leanne, and I asked us this.
And it was December, so we turned out the settlements. But there are about 30 to 40 small projects that be done.
Yeah, her request was non-capital
projects. And yes, the Santa list is also
Half done.
some of them get done.
So there's still some yet.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Also, the Trail Volunteer Fund made 4 grants this round.
That's good. And I like to hear that.
Yeah,
Anything else?
Important. I was riding on the Butler Freeport Trail section towards Butler. Near Butler. I guess it's Sheets Drive. It's in one of the cross streets there. Anyway, it was very rutted. I'd not been on that section of trail for 3 years or so, and I was amazed at all the rutting that from the drainage issues. Excuse me. So just to report that, but I went on it. Was fun. It was fun. But
So did you start in Butler?
no, I started on Winfield Road.
Okay. Gotcha. That sounds like Cabot, right?
What's that?
Cabot.
Yeah, cab, aka cab.
All right. Thanks for that. All right. Anybody online? Oh, I'm sorry. We skipped. Sorry.
Nothing met the School Urban Coalition of Biped Committees coordinating a family walk ride on Sunday, September 14th, beginning and ending in Frick Park near the Frick Environmental Center. It's again September 14th, Sunday, so 10:30 to 1 or 1:30, depending on what people dissipate. But the walk will be in Frick Park, basically on the Clayton loops north and south. And the ride will be from the Environmental Center area through parts of Squirrel Hill and parts of Point Breeze, coming back to the Nature Center area. And we will have pizza and people welcome to bring their own picnics, but we'll have pizza and water available for those who want to, and they can eat their pizza or whatever in the pavilions that are recently constructed behind the Environmental Center or on any open grounds. There will be other activities by other groups on the premises at the same time, but we'll be able to avoid each other. But that is September 14th. It's a family walk ride. So and it's again, Frick Environmental Center, which I hope everybody knows it's off Beechwood Boulevard near Dallas. It's in Squirrelville. And it must go to
And that route is essentially entirely on bicycle infrastructure.
yes.
It uses bike lanes. It uses the neighborway on Reynolds. It goes through parts on a well-packed dirt road. I think there's about a block on a dead-end street that's not a bike lane, but it's a dead-end street. Bike lanes and cycle tracks basically back to the Environmental Center. So it's essentially all out of traffic.
All right. Thanks for that update, Marshall. Good luck. All right. Now we'll move to online.
Well, no one's speaking, so I'll speak up. This is Jack Casey from the town of McCandless. We're working with Ed and John on improving the walkability of McCandless. We have a trail that starts at the bottom of McCandless and goes pretty much, it connects into the Rachel Carson Trail and the Commodore Perry Trail. And there's millions of dollars worth of sidewalks in McCandless, but they didn't connect to any neighborhoods. So we're trying to connect the neighborhoods up at this point. We're trying to put in a sidewalk along the Harmony Road up in Ingomar, which is kind of a missing. I mean, you can walk the road like somebody was talking about walking a 25-mile-an-hour road, but nobody goes 25 mile an hour. So we applied for one of those school grants to try to put in a sidewalk there. And that on Blazer Drive, which connects between Route 19 and McKnight Road and Ingomar Road, we put a piece of sidewalk there, and those two pieces will really improve the walkability of our town. And we continue to apply for grants as they come up.
Great. Thanks for that update, Jack. All right. Hearing no others.
I have two more.
All right.
Breckenridge just recently completed 1 mile of sidewalk, bike path along the main highway, along the river paths. So that was opened up 2 months or so ago.
Rapid Ridge between Pittsburgh and Freeport along that side of the alley.
Yeah,
Great.
one of the small communities, one of the 17 communities along the north side of the Allegheny that we're trying to get for here to Pittsburgh. Blairsville, the bridge going across Route 22, the pillars are being constructed. You can see the pillars there. So that bridge is in progress. And the Leechburg connection between Shetland and Beachburg was also opened up recently. Say go from another 5 miles, bringing the Armstrong Trail down to Beachburg.
Yeah, those are all great updates. That Leechburg connection, that was earlier this year, right? Didn't they have just had a ribbon cutting there?
And a ribbon cutting for that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And we do appreciate these updates and the input. That's how Chris and our other data and GIS staff get the information to update our network maps. So if we don't hear about it or we don't read about it, we don't know.
Will be there soon, right?
Yeah, run forward. Yeah. And Blairsville, that's exciting that project, that sound Josh Crew was not on the call. Otherwise, he probably would have given an update on that. I do know they are getting ready to close traffic on 22 overnight when they do that construction part across the highway. So that's exciting. And speaking of Indiana County, I believe they're planning their Cambria to Indiana County seat to seat ride on September 20th, which is Saturday. So any others online? All right. Well, hearing none, we will go ahead and adjourn. And I do apologize on the agenda. It says the networking lunch, but we do not have a networking lunch due to the state budget not passing. So that was a mistake on my part. I carried that over from the last agenda, but we have plenty of lunch options in this trip. And again, thank you all for attending. Feel free to hang out, chat. We can do coffee maybe.